Mirroring in InterSystems IRIS is a powerful feature designed to provide an economical solution for high availability between two InterSystems IRIS instances. While mirroring is such a powerful feature, its initial configuration can be a bit cumbersome when considering all of the guidelines related to this feature. However, we can make the initial configuration much simpler using the configuration merge feature of InterSystems IRIS. In this video, we will set up a mirror configuration between two IRIS instances and an arbiter using the configuration merge action config mirror, where we'll use separate merge files on each machine, and we will consider two main cases. The first is that we have just installed IRIS and therefore do not have any data. And then the opposite case, where we already have data stored in IRIS and now need to set up mirroring for that instance. To complete the mirror configuration using configuration merge, we will use the IRIS merge command from the operating system shell. In our case, we will be on Windows. All of the operations that the merge will perform are contained in the configuration merge file. In our case, that will only be configuration merge actions. These are actions that can create, modify, and delete dozens of InterSystems IRIS objects. To begin configuring our mirror, let's take a look at the machine that will become the primary. Now, if we take a look at the configuration merge file we will use on this instance, it has three actions. The modify service action, which lets us enable the %service_mirror service, which is required for mirroring. Then the config mirror action, which is where we will provide the information for our mirror configuration, such as the name, the member that this instance will become when it's added to the mirror, the IP address or host name of the primary instance, the IP address or host name followed by the port that the arbiter is running on a separate system, and the system name, which is the unique name that will identify this instance in the mirror. Note that the config mirror action has many more optional arguments we will not use here. You can consult the documentation for more information. The last action is create database, where we will create a new database called MyData, stored in the C/databases directory. Note that this directory needs to already exist prior to running the merge. And since we want this database to be added to the mirror, we need to specify the mirror set name and mirror database name properties. Lastly, the logical only property we have set to 0 to force IRIS to create a brand new empty database. Now let's execute the merge on the primary. To do so, I have an operating system shell open in the bin directory of where I have installed IRIS, and then I will type IRIS merge and then supply the instance name, in this case just IRIS. Then we'll supply the file path to where our merge file is stored on the operating system. And then we're going to merge it into the actively running configuration parameter file, which is stored in the installation directory and called iris.cpf. When I execute the merge, IRIS will prompt me to authenticate and then begin the merge. So our merge has completed successfully. Let's take a look in the management portal to see what the merge did. So I'm in the management portal, and if I refresh, well, we can see that we're now a member of the mirror called MyMirror. And if we view the mirror monitor, we can see that this failover member has been added to the mirror and that the MyData database has been created and added as one of the mirrored databases. So now that our primary has been configured for the mirror, we need to go to the machine that we will configure as the backup failover member. So now that I'm on the backup, what does the configuration merge file look like for the backup? It looks very similar to what we used on the primary. It still has modify service, config mirror, and create database. The only difference is that the member property for config mirror is now backup, and our system name is now a different unique name so that we can differentiate our two instances in the mirror. And we do not need to specify the logical only property on the backup. So now let's run the merge on the backup. So our merge has successfully completed on the backup. Now let's go back to the primary and look at the mirror monitor. So if I refresh the mirror monitor, We can see now that our other failover member Bravo has been added to the mirror, both failover members are connected to the arbiter, and that our backup member is caught up. And since it is caught up, that means that our mirror configuration is completely set up and our backup is ready to receive changes from the primary. Since our mirror has now been set up, let's test it. So I went and created a namespace that uses the My Data database as its default. That way, whenever I open a terminal session, I can change to my namespace, which I just called test. Now, if I set the my new global, now that change has been made on the primary, we can now go see if that change has been replicated on the backup. So now that I'm on the backup, if I go to the System Explorer Globals page and look in the My Data database, we can see that the My New Global has been created and has the same data that I set on the primary, showing that our mirror configuration is successfully completed and that our mirror is working normally. Now, you may be in the situation where you already have data stored in Iris and now need to configure mirroring for that instance. So, for example, I'm starting with two fresh machines that aren't configured in a mirror since we don't have the pop-up here for the mirror monitor. And I have a local database called My Data that has a global in it called the pre-mirror global. And now I need to configure mirroring for this instance. So how does configuring mirroring using configuration merge change when we have pre-existing data? So let's take a look at the merge file we will use in this case. So the merge file that we'll use when we have pre-existing data looks very similar to the one we used when we did not have any data. Modify service and config mirror are exactly the same because we're using the same set of machines and we're using the same mirror name. But for the create database action, the logical only property has been set equal to 1. That way, when we run the merge, Iris will find the database with the name MyData in that directory and add that pre-existing database to the mirror rather than creating a brand new empty database. So if that's the only difference that's on the machine that will become the primary, what about the machine that will become the backup? So if I go to my machine that will become the backup and look at its merge file, we're going to use the exact same merge file we used when we didn't have any data. We're going to enable the %service mirror, use the same mirror configuration information, and create a brand new My Data database on the backup. But for mirroring to work correctly, the data in the primary and backups mirror databases need to be the same. They need to be in sync so that the backup can then start receiving changes from the primary. So how will we bring the backup's brand new database in sync with the primary's mirror database that has the pre-mirror global in it? That will be done automatically via the automatic database download feature that was introduced in the 2025.1 version of InterSystems IRIS. So when this new My Data database is created on the backup, Iris will automatically download the data that's in the corresponding database on the primary. So let's see that in action. So first, let's go back to the primary and run the merge. So now that our merge has completed on the primary, we can go to the backup and run the merge there. But now we'll run the merge on the backup. So now that our merge is completed successfully on the backup, let's take a look at the management portal on the backup. So if I refresh, we can now see that we're a member of the Mirror My Mirror. And if we look at the mirror monitor, we will see that both failover members have been added to the mirror. They're both connected to the arbiter, and that our backup member Bravo is caught up. Well, if it's caught up, that means that its data is in sync with the primaries, which means we can go look at the data from the System Explorer Globals page and look at the My Data database, and we will see that the pre-mirror global with the value pre-mirror was downloaded from the primary without any intervention on our part. And since our backup is caught up, that means we can now test our mirror. So let's go to the primary and open up a terminal session. And then I will change to my test namespace that uses the My Data database. And then we'll set the post-mirror global. So now that we've made that change on the primary, let's go back to the backup and see if it made it. So now if we go to the globals and we look at the My Data database, the post-mirror global is now there, showing that our mirror has been successfully configured and is working normally. That completes our demonstration of using the configuration merge feature to configure mirroring. For more information on the configuration merge feature, you can consult the documentation.